please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
But he sent them.
Jeff, can you please do roll call?
Really?
Todd Clemens.
Yeah.
Erica Connor.
Here.
Mary DeMore.
Here.
Andy Mankey. Art Schneider.
Here.
Craig Verts.
Present.
Jeff Vokel. Here. Jill Werner.
Here.
Sherry Winchowski.
Expected, I think. All right. This is an open meeting and has been noticed as such. First up, we're going to have citizens' comments. I have Clarice Showalter first. Okay. For McGuanago High School Band. And
This is my very first time, so I'm sorry. I don't
That's
know what
okay.
to do.
just come up and speak into the microphone. You'll be fine.
That might be a good thing considering I've got bad laryngitis. So, hello, my name is Clarice Walter, and I appreciate taking the time from the board to be able to hear some concerns that I have. The primary topic of my concern has to do with McGuanago High School Band Program. I'm very concerned with the negative direction that the program has been taking over the past couple of years. I have been a very strong supporter of the band program since my kids have been starting in orchestra in the very 4th grade. I have 2 that are now graduated. One is at the Air Force Academy, one just graduated, and will be going to UW-Madison. And I have a vested interest as my youngest one is going into the 8th grade and is currently in the band program today. I understand that I have very limited time, but several concerns that I have been brought up since I was a band booster executive member, which was just a couple years ago. So I'll break them down into about 6 varied topics, understanding that if there's further questions that I appreciate if the board, I'm very open to the board hearing for further detail. Some of the topics that I have to deal with financial irresponsibility. The second major topic is the denial of use of brand new purchased school instruments for students. The third main topic has to deal with lack of follow-through and accountability and responsibility. The fourth main topic has to deal with the loss of students in various programs of the marching band programs. The fifth topic has to deal with loss of band events, such as Tri-M and Tri-M events. The sixth main topic has to do with unprofessional conduct and behavior. And the seventh main topic that I have is a safety concern that I have for the students. So some of the things, what initially had inspired me to come and present to the board today is because of hearing of the disbanding of the Tri-M group, which has been a long-time group. It is a group very likened to the National Honor Society that we have in many high schools. Tri-M functions very much the same, as it recognizes the students that are not only academically strong, but are also very musically strong and have the desire to develop leadership abilities, which I feel is ever important, especially at a time when the referendum hasn't passed in relation to having a new, beautiful fine arts building, which I am constantly hearing about and seeing pictures about. Why would we try to disband a group that tries to help instill leadership? For many, as we all know, McGuanago School District is very athletically focused, but I think there is so much wonderful potential that we have here in the fine arts. And to see a group that is specifically focused on fine arts, and it's not just having to deal with just music-related events, but it has to deal with interaction with the community. They would donate things, they would do drives to collect different things to help support our community. And it gives inspiration for students that may not be athletically inclined, but more musically and academically inclined. And I think that's so important to have a well-rounded school district, which is one thing that really gravitated me to move towards the McGuanago area system. So for some specific examples, in relation to financial irresponsibility, with the Blue 2, and during the last year that the band booster organization was around and we were transitioning into the MFAB Fine Boosters There were many times that we have tried to try and invite members of the school board, the principal, et cetera, to come and attend because we had serious concerns that we were already identifying in what was happening with the band program. Money was being spent. Example, $2,000 was spent, a booster organization money, which the boosters had no acknowledgement of, we were not aware of. There was no request for approval. That's a significant amount of money. Another thing that had happened is with Phantom Legion and our marching band and fees that were owed to students. And some students, they just did not want to return. And there are different reasons why. I do have some things that students had sent to me, but they wish to remain anonymous because there is a significant fear of retaliation that is happening within the band program. So money was kept. There's the other question of in relation to, okay, you know, some time ago, many moons ago, there used to be single earning income families. Now we're at dual income earning families. And even on top of that, now you've got people that are having to work multiple jobs. Well, should that affect, and I appreciate and understand those situations, but should that affect what our prime responsibility is here? There are things that are out there that are interfering with our program here, I feel, because as an outsider looking in, and when these different events occur, such as, such as outside for the McGuanago School District, we have the Lighthouse Brigade of Racine. There is the Tundra Line. There's other activities that are going. Blue 2 is an example. That's not just focused on McGuanago area school students. That's trying to get other students from surrounding counties, all the way down to Madison, down to Racine, out to Oak Creek, South Milwaukee, etc., trying to recruit them to come here. Why has our band membership have even fallen? There were times where our band membership, just within the past 5 years or so, we used to have a 100+ member program, and now we're lucky to have 40. We would recruit people from some of these other organizations. Why am I having to recruit 10 people just to get us up to 50 people to be here? Some other things. Let me go back to my next topic here. One thing that we've always struggled is just trying to get a budget from directors. Now, mind you, I was new to being an executive member of a booster organization. So trying to understand how the financial aspects, how do you request money? Is that something that's supposed to happen? Is that the process? And to understand that that was a process, but yet hearing that that directors don't want to ask for money. They don't want to justify that. They don't want to have to go begging and pleading. Any money I earn, I want going right into my fund for me to do with at my whim. Where is the accountability? We've had an example of that just this past year with our color guard. As we all know, within organizations, there might be smaller groups that do fundraising. Our color guard is a great example of that. On their hard-worked money, or hard-worked efforts on their backs, they would sell T-shirts. You would think that color guard, they're the only ones doing this fundraising, that somehow those funds would go back to the people that fundraised. Not one dime of the $300 that they earned. Now, mind you, maybe $300 for some people might mean menial. But for your students that have gone out there and sold to other students to try and get new flags, new sabers, they don't even have sabers, to get new rifles, which have, I don't even know when they have been replaced. And nothing goes back to them. What a shame. We have, there was new instruments that were purchased, and I can speak quite frankly to this. So soprano saxophones are not something that are easily come by. A new one was purchased. My daughter had been asking for to do a soprano saxophone part, not even a solo. I wanted to play the soprano saxophone because it has a unique sound, Not many people can play that. It takes a certain amount of skill. She was denied because it was supposedly assigned to one other student who played it for one performance at the very beginning of the year. After that, it was never touched. So my daughter, who's part of a saxophone choir group, which I am proud to say has gone to stage 3 times. I proudly wear the WSMA solo ensemble shirt. They went to stage 3 times playing Class A music and receiving a first each time. They were not directed. Their director wasn't there to support them. The director was not even there to even be there to support any other students. We could not find a soprano saxophone to rent because there are very few. I ended up having to pay $1,500 out of my own pocket so that she can play and be part of this phenomenal group. They even had to take it upon themselves to purchase their own music themselves because they didn't have the support. Sorry, I have a really bad cold here. Other things that would happen, in fact, this choir, they practiced completely on their own. When they participated in state and they got first place from, received a first, their judge had even made the comment, wow, you guys are a pretty phenomenal group. Such large group with so many different tempo changes and key changes, and you have no one leading you. That's pretty unheard of. Fantastic job. You are to be commended for that.
Okay, I'm gonna give you 2 more minutes.
I'm sorry,
2 more minutes.
2 more minutes, okay. I better go quicker. I usually talk fast. Lack of follow-through responsibility. Some major topics hitting with this is just students aren't getting the recognition and awards that they had earned, that they have achieved, whether it be a letter, whether it be a medallion. So for some students, it's had taken over a year. And several requests from the student, eventually parent intervention to get what was earned from them. I could mention different examples of retaliation that were brought into play. Most latest and greatest example, here we are at the end of the school season. We always have a band banquet that recognizes our seniors. We always had a band booster organization that would put this together. And we always had a wonderful group. They just would put a wonderful, wonderful program. They would have a slideshow. They would dress up. They would have just the attire would be something. Yes, seniors do get to have some say as to how they would like it to be handled. The seniors were polled approximately 2 to 3 months before the end of the year. Nothing happened. I went to our band booster, to our MFAB booster organization to ask if anything had been brought up. For the past 2 months, nothing had been brought up. Eventually, I had to ask if anything is being done. I had mentioned budget earlier. A budget never came until after I had asked, approximately 3 weeks before the end of the school year. The band banquet did take place. There were no decorations. There was no slideshow. There was no recognition of the seniors other than the senior gifts that my daughter and I had put together and spent out of our own pockets because we wanted to recognize the students. There wasn't even a program. So what kinds of things are going on right now? Well, let's see. We've got Lighthouse Brigade that's going on right now. That happens every weekend. Right now, they're at a big band camp. Goes 9 to 9 every day. How come our students didn't get recognized, but yet all of our focuses, seems to me, from an outsider looking in, is being taken elsewhere? So there was delay.
Okay, I need you to
There was
wrap it up.
delay. I'm sorry?
I need you to wrap it up.
Oh, okay. Let me then just bring it up to the last concern, and that has to deal with safety concern for students. I'm just going to pose this question because I would imagine that whenever you have any type of event that's going on, a school-sponsored event, let's say it's an overnight, wouldn't you expect there to be at least some type of school administration on premises when that's happening? Wouldn't we expect there to be, especially now that we had to open up registration to 6th graders up to seniors in high school, for parent chaperones to be present? I would imagine that there would have to be a minimum number of parents available. There were none. I have been part of the Blue 2 organization since its inception. I have done almost every single overnight with them, almost single-handedly. And there were times when I couldn't be there. My husband had a stroke, that was one reason. I had to take a few nights off. Was there anybody there? No. Was it brought up to the attention? Absolutely it was. And especially when you don't have parents that are there now and you're opening up to young kids, 6th graders. Mix that with some high school students. For me as a parent, I have great safety concerns with that. So, I could get into other examples of professional conduct. And let's just say that anybody can walk past a room where you have adults that are staying, whether it be another adult or whether it be a student. And to suddenly see blanket sheets suddenly pulled off and people like acting quite differently when you suddenly appear into a room, that's concerning for me. So I appreciate everybody's time and hearing my concerns.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Sandy Muir.
Is it possible that I can defer to the end?
Sure, it's a pretty long meeting, though.
I just wanted to hear what you have to say on the topic of the health, and it may not be necessary.
Okay.
But otherwise I can.
After that subject, we'll give you some time to, is that okay? Or
Or we can talk about that now,
why don't we talk about it now? Okay.
if that helps.
Sure.
Are there any other citizens' comments before we move on? Okay.
Will I be able to speak after that? then?
Yeah, we'll let you,
Sure.
we'll let you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, the student rep report.
Hey guys. So some things that we have going on at the high school. I just wanted to mention a very honorable senior, Zach Dybel. He ended his career at MHS playing a total of 6 sports. He qualified for the opportunity to participate in 2 state meets in the past 2 weeks. And he did end with a 3rd place individual finish in the high jump at lacrosse and with a 9th place team finish at University Ridge for golf. And he claimed to have had a record year, which I thought was really cool and worth mentioning.
Recently, the IT Academy was also just featured in a recent edition of the monthly newsletter from the Department of Public Instruction of Wisconsin. Attached, I have the article, the full article you can read on your own time, but it's pretty cool that the Wisconsin State Department is recognizing our school and the IT department for their how they have job readiness available for high school students and how this is helping them in their futures.
And then from Rolling Hills, I have on the 30th, the students participated in the annual Olympics Day. And the kindergarten through 3rd grade competed in activities like shoe tosses and obstacle courses. And 4th through 6th grade students participated in track and field events.
At Section Elementary, they just unveiled a little free library, which is an event that Ms. Jelenic received a grant from the Education Foundation to allow her community club to build a free library with an assortment of books that students can access outside of the ball diamond at section. And it is perfect for students who want to read books during a practice or a ball game if they're watching, and they can also take them home and return or exchange these books whenever they want. And in accordance with the theme of technology at the school, there's a QR code outside of the library box to share information with others about the project.
And then from Eagleville, they had 186 students attend their summer school program, and they have a variety of activities going on there, obviously, and I thought it was really cool that they're teaching them some Spanish. And also a little incentive. All board members are invited to the annual cookout sponsored by the district office Thursday, June 15th from 11 to 12:15 p.m. And our very own Sean McNulty, Art Schneider, and Ron Schlicht will be grilling all the hot dogs.
All right, thank
I
you.
usually end up grilling.
Yeah. I just tell them to move faster.
All right,
So,
well,
if I could interrupt real
Yep.
quick, Miriam, sorry. So, Miriam, why don't you talk about the robotics real
Okay.
quick, since you were a member of that team,
Yes.
and they really had an outstanding season, and I know it's in the student rep report. Can you give these guys an update?
All right, sure. So this past season was probably one of the most successful seasons this team has ever had. The team ended up placing second in state, and as a result of that, they won a trip, or they won a ticket to go to World Championships in St. Louis. And this year, we ended up being the first pick of the 8th seed alliance, so we got to the quarterfinals, and that's the best the team's ever done. And in addition to that, another award we won was the Dean's List Finalist Award, which is actually an award that I was bestowed because of individual student achievement and leadership for the team. So those are the two notable prizes that the team has won.
Awesome job.
Congratulations.
Great season.
Good job, you two. First meeting, great job.
You survived. All right, we'll clean up one more issue, the consent agenda. We have approval of board minutes of May 22nd, 2017, and approval of vouchers numbers 112538 to 113006, and funds 102123, 2741, 45, 49, 50, 72, and 80, totaling 1.7 million in change, and receipts for May 2017 in funds 10, 21, 27, 41, 50, and 72, totaling 918,000 in change. What?
Would you repeat that?
Yeah. Are there any questions or concerns? All right, hearing none, it's approved by consent. And then we're gonna move on to the health room staffing. That's
Okay.
item number, under F2G.
So at the last meeting, Art had asked a question about the hours that our people work, and our health room assistants. So on page 40 of the packet, I gave an update there about the people that we have working in our district health program there. So Laura Heidelmeyer is our district nurse. She's our RN. She's located at the middle school. And in addition to her, we have Jen Wernis, who works a limited number of hours a week, about 14 hours a week. She was working 5, but we increased her hours this past year in September, October, I believe. She works out of the high school, and I put a little description there of the projects, things that she does on behalf of the health program and on behalf of Laura. Below that, I talk about our health room assistants and who we have and the number of hours that they work. So with the exception of Eagleville, we have one health room assistant at each of our elementary schools, our middle school, and our high school. Our health assistant at the high school is full-time. She is 40 hours a week. So we have good coverage there, relatively speaking. And then she has assistant to a clerk that is in the health room to assist her with the things that are going on there. Okay. At our elementary and middle schools, we have a health assistants that work 5.75 hours a day. So it's about 28 hours a week that they work there. So there is not coverage full-time from start to finish. There isn't. They start a little early, before school begins. There's about 1 day of training, and then there's some flex time of about 25 hours to start things up. A lot of the work that is done, as I'm told here, is it's based on parent packets getting turned in about updated medications and things of that nature. And that stuff does need to get entered into our information systems. We have to have that stuff on file. Sometimes we don't get that information from parents until first day of school. So starting early doesn't always lend itself to convenience. If we had all the information in ahead of time, I think that we could take more decisive action in that regard. And then once school is done there's just a little follow-up time, maybe a day or so. So that's Art. I don't know if that was the information you were looking for there, but
Yeah, I mean, I was, obviously, we were touching on that when I brought it up. I was aware of the hours. What we were discussing is extending those hours to make sure that we had coverage from open to close on the kids'
Right.
school day, so.
So if you read my last update, and I know I sent you a number of emails last week, but my last update, I said that we would undergo a review of our health services this summer and come back with a recommendation late July, early August.
Anyone else? Any questions? All right, did you want to come up and speak?
Thanks for letting me speak.
So
My name is Sandy Muir.
I was going to introduce you, Sandy. I apologize. So,
Right.
just so everybody knows, Sandy is longtime administrative assistant at Big Bend Elementary, and she is retiring this year. So, how many more days?
Congratulations.
4 days. Not
Who's
that she's
counting?
counting. How many years?
24. That's what I was
24.
gonna say, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. As I was going to say, I've worked here for 24 years. I've seen a lot of change in that time, all over, most of it good. I've seen a benefit learning from my husband, who also was privileged to sit on the school board here for 10 years. And one of the things that he taught me is if no one comes forward and tells you what's going on in the school, you're not able to make an informed decision. So my point here is to tell you what I see, and maybe that will help you make an informed decision. I think approximately, maybe you can help me, 12 years ago, the decision was made to, I think primarily due to insurance, for a lot of classified staff, they were changed. In the case of an instructional assistant, may have been an 8-hour, and now there were 2 people that were 4 hours, which still was able to cover the student's need, and I could understand why that was done. Was a bit surprised when the decision was made to cut the health room, because no one was filling the time where the health room was no longer there. Of course, that meant that it fell onto other people, which also meant our students weren't getting the person that they needed to be in the health room there. They were getting people that took a medical course that we now had to do, which also took us away from our primary job to go in and be, because the student comes first and the medicine comes first. You can go in, you follow me. My point being, a lot of things over the years have changed. When I first started, I was at section school, and we primarily worked with cuts and bloody noses and Band-Aids and sick bellies. We've added special education, early childhood, all the special needs, and I'm sure you all know how that has changed in our school district in the last 10 years. Now we're talking tube feedings, seizure disorders, we have diabetics, we have specific diseases of children in our school, and I'll be the first to admit, as a secretary in an office, I do not feel I am qualified to handle some of these cases. And I am put in that position because you have taken our health assistant, who is the person that knows these kids in and out and knows what's good for them. She does her best when she walks out the door to say, Sandy, this person is low today. Please keep that in mind when you're doing your diabetic check for them, to watch them to bounce. And I'm going, please just let me do my job and not be in the health room, because I'm not competent with that. I'll take care of their cuts. I'll take care of their bellies. I'll do that kind of stuff. Great. I'm not confident with that, and I don't think the parent that sends their child into the health room is confident if they would know that I am a little shaky being in there with your child doing this diabetic check. I don't think that's what that parent wants either. And my point in being here is we're talking a handful of people here. We're talking 5 to 7 people when we need to be in one room, they're in another room, they're confident, kids are confident with this health room assistant. When they leave, you can see them approach. It's like, okay, who's gonna help me? And we have people that jump right in there and do it because we're there for our kids, but I can see it on their face that they're just a little bit more leery about us being in there than the person that's trained to be it. So my point here is, think about that. Think about what you want for our children. We're talking a couple hours maybe in there for our health room so that they can feel confident. And I wanted to speak about this because I'm walking out now. Happily, I've been here, but I know that for me, this has been a little bit of a shaky thing. We've added security. We've added everybody that walks in the door now gets buzzed in. We no longer have subs for our secretaries and clerks for the first day. So if someone is out, I've recently had a death in my family, I was out. I've left my clerk alone. When our health assistant leaves, what does she do? Does she take care of the student, of course? Does she let the door keep buzzing for people to come in? It creates a situation that is not ideal. So think about all those things, please. And thanks for letting me talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, ready to move on? Okay, first up, we have action items. We have appointments, retirements, and resignations.
So all appointments tonight, and it's a long list, there's an updated list in your folder, different from the one in the packet. We had a few additions since we sent the packet last Thursday. Michelle Bauman, 3rd grade Prairie View. Jennifer Collins, Spanish at Parkview and McGuanago High School. Samantha Crary, 6th grade Rolling Hills. Ashley Miller, Business Ed at McGuanago High School. Charlene Mokentine, kindergarten at Prairie View Elementary. Kayla Moser, 3rd grade at Big Bend. Paul Moser at Fayette at Eagleville and Prairie View. Michelle Nimmer, special education at Clarendon. Carlos Romo, social studies McGuanago High School. Casara Sincula, general music and band at Big Bend. Jason Strickler, social studies at McGuanago High School. And Valerie Voss, literacy coach. That's a 65% position at Eagleville and Prairie View. That's actually part of the interventionist program that you approved a couple months ago.
Okay, I'll
So
make
we'd
a,
ask that you approve those.
okay, I'll make the motion to approve those. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Are there any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have policy updates.
So that's actually a separate packet that is too big for the packet. So if you recall, last meeting, I brought a larger group of policies that were recommended by Neola, either required for approval or recommended for approval. And you asked that we break those out and bring back to you those that were needed to change. And so these are the policies that we need to make some changes. The explanation is on the first 2 pages, and then the policy changes are follow that. So you can see with policies, so for example, on the back of the 2nd page for policy 1619, where they've crossed out the red writing, that's what will be changed. And again, most of it is due to either language, outdated language, or updates with changes in state or federal law. And so in order to be in compliance, Neola is recommending that we make these changes.
Okay. All right,
So it does not have to be approved tonight, so
Okay.
technically, we didn't
Technically,
really
this is the
read
first
it
reading.
the first time, last meeting.
okay.
So this could be the first reading, and then at our June 26th meeting, you could approve.
Okay,
And that way, if you have questions, we can come back with some answers.
all right. Does anyone have any questions?
You
Yes.
can waive the second
We can
reading,
waive the
yes.
second reading if you want. All right, I have a motion to waive the second reading. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. All right. Then I need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion that we approve the bylaws as submitted.
Okay. And we have a second. Any discussion? Anybody have any questions or concerns?
The food service, the proposed policy in our packet, does that fit right into this?
So actually, this one came first. So we're actually gonna make a change with this on 8500 you're referring to. And then we're gonna talk about a different change later in the meeting that's required also because of federal guidelines and changes in federal law. So this one is a language change. So for 8500, that, I think that, where is that? Is that the last, no, not the last page.
That's not the last one, it's
It's the second to last one.
Second to last page. And so it's 8531, free and reduced price meals. And instead of district, they're making us put down institution.
Yep.
So we approve this and then discuss this
Yes.
with
Then we'll
And
discuss the
then we'll
further changes.
discuss our procedures for students that have unpaid lunch accounts later in the meeting, which is a different issue from this.
Anyone else? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries.
Who had the second on that one there?
Craig did. moving on, physical education curriculum adoption.
So I have a short memo on page 6 of your packet. If you recall, at the last meeting, Nancy Movrich and some of our team from the PEP grant was here, talked about the work that they did as a part of the PEP grant in order to revise our FIAD curriculum. So at this point, we're just looking for final approval of that work that they did.
I so move.
Okay, do I have a
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
First up, we have committee reports. Learning Committee, Youth Risk Behavior Survey.
And so we have a memo that starts on page 7. Last meeting, we brought you some information from the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. And at that time, we were talking about the number of students who had alcohol, drug, and smoking violations. And we had that data from the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. And so you had asked some questions about that survey and had asked for all of the results for all of the questions. And so I sent you the results in my update last week via email. And then Lou Puella, assistant principal at McGuanago High School, put together some answers to the questions that you had. I think we answered most of your questions. I may be wrong, but this is for information only. And if there's anything else we can provide you or answer questions, I'll be happy to try to do it.
I was reading through it, just looking at it, I was wondering, you sent a memo or a thing from December of 2011. And I was trying to piece together what we were trying to piece together. So I just would like to reiterate what I figured and let me know if I'm right or wrong. I'm assuming that letter was when we got that grant for
Right.
the safe schools because we were the results were as what they were.
So,
And then as we went along and looking through these things, the questions that are through those efforts, it looks to me like our condition has proven to be better.
yes.
And in addition to that, I was looking kind of about them, and it looked more in the survey, the things that our students were concerned about were the bullying and the climate versus the drug and alcohol usage.
That would be correct.
And it seems that that is remaining consistent, but that our environment has changed a lot, but our concerns with the drug and alcohol have kind of stayed the same. Not that we're bad,
No.
okay, bad isn't the way, not that we're lowering it or we're in a high place, but it still hasn't changed. Is that a summary of what we?
I would say that's accurate.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we were awarded because actually, and at the time in 2010 and prior to that, we had such a high out-of-school suspension rate at McGuanago High School. So that was something that caught the Department of Public Instruction's eye. And because our suspension rate was so much higher than other schools, we were considered for the Safe and Supportive Schools grant. We did receive that grant, and then as part of that grant process, we had to start issuing the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. And at that same time, that's when we started to implement the McGuanago Way and do all of those things that were related to improving school climate and improving the things that students had mentioned concerns about, not only in this Youth Risk Behavior Survey, but surveys that had been done of students, staff, and parents prior to 2010.
I'm really recapping it for those of you that might not know how it worked, because there was lots of questions, and having lived through that entire process, that is more or less why I was.
So, and then what you see here are these reports from November of 2011, and I think Lou included even a couple of others beyond that. Those are DPI reports. We were showing the work that we were doing at McGuanago High School, and I was the principal at that time, the work that we were doing with the money that we were given with the Safe and Supportive Schools grant. And at that time, again, we were doing a lot of the McGuanago Way stuff with that money.
Is there any of that money left, or is that sunset?
Oh, that's gone, right. That was a 3-year grant. I think, if I recall correctly, don't quote me on it, I think it was $90,000 a year for 3 years. And we did a number of different activities. If you recall, Challenge Day, so that was an anti-bullying effort that we did at McGuanago High School. Some of you might have participated in that. And so we did a variety of different activities like that to make sure that we improve the climate at McGuanago High School.
So now that that money's gone, are there things in place? Because children move on every 4 years, there's new people, and then so were things put in place so that it doesn't go back to how it was when we didn't have money?
So that would be the McGuanago Way efforts, those things that they're doing there now. And if you take a look at the memo that Lou put together on the back of that first page, so it should be page 8, the staff takes a look at the youth risk behavior results each year, a committee meets, and then they develop activities that will address the concerns that come up from the trends from that data.
And I don't.
But I don't know what specific activities, I'd have to ask.
And I don't
them.
know, I don't think it was in this packet. I don't think it was in this packet, but I had read something recently in some of our packets where, and in some of the workshops that we had gone to at the convention, and about where teachers were asked to know students better and make, so that kids didn't get lost in the cracks, which is where these situations come from.
So we used to do activities, I don't know if they're still doing those activities, where we would meet during in-service time, staff development time, and make sure that every single student at McGuanago High School was known personally by some adult in the building. Yes, I don't know if they've done that recently, but we have done activities like that.
Do you know?
No, I don't know if it's been done recently.
So if you take a look at page 8, number 4, Mr. Quella is addressing things that they've done recently. So Link Crew, for example, that's an activity that the freshman transition program, Save and Best Buddies, Prime for Life, that is a program that's conducted by a social worker and school resource officer for those students that have had alcohol and drug violations. It's a support group.
But from what I'm seeing, all of these are a student-based, there's not staff. And that other that I just mentioned was a staff.
No, staff runs Prime for Life, staff runs Link Crew in conjunction with students, Positive Coaching Alliance, that's staff and student together. So maybe I'm misunderstanding your question.
Well, the activity the other activity where staff are brought
Oh.
together and said, it's a staff training on how to
Right.
ensure that, that's
Yes,
all.
I don't know if they've done
That's all
that.
I'm following up on, because that was.
We can find out.
That was truly effective.
Yeah, I
and to
agree.
And to have it,
I can talk to them about that. Happy to do that. No, I like that activity. Yeah, it's powerful.
Anyone else? Okay. Next up is the McGuanago High School graduation 2018.
Okay, first, thank you for all of those who attended graduation yesterday. A little warm, but I thought it went off very well. I'm anxious to hear your input on that. Any questions or comments about graduation?
Great. It's great. It's a great place to have a graduation.
Yep.
So,
I don't remember my graduation in McGuanago High School gym, but I'd remember that, I think. Just saying.
It was well done.
graduate?
And really, from McGuanago.
I never want to go back to the gym. I never
No.
want to go to the gym.
I agree.
The number of people that you can invite is limited, everything like that. And just a nicer venue, I think. It's
so I hear you.
One family had 38 guests show up. They all could be there. Yeah,
I'd have to say this was probably the biggest crowd we've had.
And I think it was
impressive.
budget neutral, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
I guess what we're all wondering is, why are you having the committee to discuss it when
So I think that
we're all convinced it's.
well, I think it's important that a couple of things. First, and when we did advertise or promote, I shouldn't say advertise, promote the referendum last year, we did talk about the possibility of bringing graduation back to McGuanago High School.
We-
So that's
We
one
said
thing.
it would be possible.
It would be
but
possible.
we also explained how the classes were involved. I was at those meetings.
So I think that's important to note. Second, I do think that it's important that Jim Darren and the high school students and staff and with parent input, that they have an opportunity to weigh in on this.
Okay.
Because there are some problems with Muir Park. I think we have to keep that in mind. First of all, handicap accessibility for students is non-existent. I think that you have to understand that our students in wheelchairs cannot sit with the rest of the students. And then another issue is that, and it happened 2 years ago, finding a date for graduation with the Milwaukee Brewers is not as easy as it would be at Mukwonago High School. And so a couple of years ago, if you recall, we had set a date with Miller Park and the Brewers, and a couple months in, they pulled that away from us because they had an opportunity for a concert. At that time, it was the Rolling Stones. And the Rolling Stones changed their tour and decided not to come to Milwaukee, and then they said, oh, you can have it again. So those kinds of things are something that we want to consider. Obviously, weather, if you were there the first year we had at Miller Park, they didn't close the roof. And Jill remembers, her grandson graduated that time. Some of you were there. It was cold.
It's cold.
So those are some things to consider. I'm not saying we shouldn't have it at Miller Park. What I am saying is that, and you did my evaluation a couple weeks ago, and you said I should give you recommendations. My recommendation is that the high school gather input, students, these guys are seniors next year, staff.
Where do you want to go?
And parents, and then come back with a recommendation to you, and you decide where that graduation ceremony should be held.
Sounds like a
Right.
good idea.
Ultimately, it's our decision. Okay.
I have a
But with their input.
question.
Yes.
When is the commitment that you have to make to Miller Park to do a reservation?
Well, so we actually reserve it now,
You do it, okay. You
but
have the right
that
to.
just says that we're planning on coming back. The Brewers have to be out of town. So they won't allow us to use Miller Park if the Brewers are in town, so it has to be when they're on the road, obviously. And the Milwaukee Brewers, Major League Baseball does not release their schedule until the fall. So the earliest we would know would be roughly October. I think, if I recall correctly, they release it during the World Series.
And I would like to get input from the two in the wheelchairs to see if they enjoyed it.
Sean, I saw on the news there was some high schools that had graduation on the football field or the turf. You know, it was privately funded. Maybe we could do something like that, just saying.
So
As an alternate,
I think that's one thing that the high school committee could discuss, whether or not to have it outdoors at Mukwonago High School. In the past, we've been reluctant to hold it outside, knowing that we didn't have a suitable facility if we had to move it inside due to weather. But now, it could be on the football field, for example. Trying to think how many, I don't have off the top of my head, I can't remember how many we seat, 2,500 maybe?
I was gonna say 2750, but
2,750?
which isn't enough.
In the bleachers, the 400 graduates or so would be on the field, so we wouldn't need seats in the bleachers for them. But if
Yeah.
there was rain or poor weather, at least we would have a suitable facility to bring it back inside.
Yep.
With overflow in the auditorium, so.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yes.
Is there a possibility that the 2018 graduating class would graduate in the new field house?
Yes, so, in the new gym,
No,
that's,
yes,
that's
I'm
what they're talking about,
confused.
yes.
Haley, the
I'm
field
just-
house didn't pass.
So, yeah, we don't,
Well,
a large
you know
gym.
what I'm saying.
it's a large gym, not a
Large
field
gym.
house.
Same thing, but I was just wondering because I know a lot, like the popular opinion at the high school is that we want to do it at Miller Park, and I think that's like
I
that
think you
goes
should be on
same
that.
for other grades.
These ladies should be on that committee.
Agreed.
Right.
That would be a great thing to get more involved.
It would be.
in some of the things we always talk
It is
about.
not an ideal situation for elderly people. It is not. I
Miller
mean, if you
Park
want-
or the-
Miller Park.
I would say it's much more available than going into a gym or into the stands at the high school. I know
Going into
my
the
mother
stands.
hasn't.
Well, not going into the stands
Bleachers.
at the
I
high
think
school.
having
No.
the process that Sean explained
Yes.
to us is a great process.
We'll let
And
it
then we
work out.
can hash it out after the recommendation. That's cool.
I I do like the idea of them serving, not just because they want Miller Park, but because they're board members and
So,
they're,
it's
it would be
best
nice
if-
to give them a duty to.
Agreed. So it's best if we're gonna say
Extension.
that Jim Darren is gonna create a committee, that he should be allowed to create that committee. But I can tell Jim that you recommend that the young ladies
Yeah.
here are on that committee.
The board strongly
And then you have to
encourages
report
it.
back to the board.
Right, okay.
There's more duties involved with that.
No, that does make sense.
Yes, more involved in,
Yeah.
Report, that'd be great.
yeah.
They have a lot to do.
No, they-
Let's-
Come on.
If
It's
you guys
senior
don't
year, you
mind,
can-
I'm sure it's fine.
can do
but
it
I
all.
just don't want,
You're seniors. You can do everything.
My daughter would volunteer also. Summer Schneider.
Add the board. All right. Anything else? Anyone?
I don't think so, but thanks again for helping.
Yep. Next up is a PBMS, alcohol and other drug curricular program.
So Tim Lemke's here to talk about this change, possible change in curriculum at PBMS.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. We're looking at the middle school to increase our curriculum that we offer for our middle school students in relation to drugs and alcohol, prevention, intervention, and just increasing the knowledge base. Also looking to really hit home with that early intervention piece. And I think the board, I've heard you guys talk about that quite a bit with, it's no longer the age where we're worried about alcohols and drugs necessarily at the high school. It's the building blocks of kids being exposed earlier and earlier to those experiences. So we're actively seeking some community-based resources that can help us with that curriculum. And one of those community-based agencies is the Addiction Resource Council. I'm sure in Waukesha County, you guys may have heard about them over the years. They've been around for a very long time, since 1969. They're currently working with a number of Waukesha County schools. I believe they're working with Muskego and Kettle Moraine, Arrowhead, and a couple of other districts as well. I met with them about a month ago just to go through their information, what they have to offer, and what some programming would look like. So really what I'm looking for tonight is just to get a little bit of guidance from you guys as to what you would like to see, what you would like me to bring forward for you guys to review in terms of utilizing this curriculum at our middle school. The curriculum consists of 4 to 5 lessons related to a number of topics. But really it's that early intervention, exposure, and giving safe alternatives to going down the path of alcohol or drug abuse. ARC actually comes in and they deliver the lessons, so it's not our staff having to plan for additional curriculum, additional lesson planning, and it's experts within the field that have real life experience working with folks that have struggled with alcohol and other drugs. So it's really getting the most accurate, most updated, scientifically research-based type of curriculum that we can offer our kids. It is entirely grant funded, which means no cost for us to have this group come in and deliver these lessons. So just looking a little bit from you guys as to what you would want to see. I have information packets that they've given to me that I can make available for you guys to kind of look through. The individual that's our consultant also mentioned that he'd be willing to come to a board meeting or communicate with you guys individually. So just looking for a little bit of feedback from you guys, how you'd like to proceed
Tim,
with looking
great
at
idea. Who does fund this? How, they're funded through the federal government, is that correct?
it. Federal and state funds, they apply for numerous grants to cover all of their cost. So they kind of have their hands in a bunch of different pockets to get the funding sources to make it accessible for a lot of schools in Waukesha County.
Awesome.
Yep. Yeah, it is awesome. It really is.
Jerry?
Yep.
I've worked with this curriculum, I believe. Who's the man you're speaking with? Can you tell
His
me
name is Adam Kindred.
Okay, I don't know that name, but
I believe he's new with the group within the last couple of
Okay,
years.
because I work with them, and we piloted, I believe, I'd like to see the information, but I think we piloted this curriculum with the kids that I work with in
Okay.
our summer camp.
Okay.
And it was a really good curriculum. It
Yep.
was not, it was moderate, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't way crazy.
It's not an alarmist approach
No,
to,
it's not at
scare
all
the
an-
kids
and
away.
It's
Right.
not,
Right.
so over the edge, it's not sugar-coated either. It's kind
Correct.
of real. It's kind of, I found it to be a very real curriculum, and those of you who know me, it takes a lot to get there. So, so I have been wondering, after they piloted, I came and says, Maxine was here at the time, and because we haven't worked with them. So if it means anything to you guys, I think the Addiction Resource Council is an excellent resource, and the curriculum.
That's great to hear. Yeah, that's great to hear.
I have a question.
Hold on, Andy?
If they're willing to come in, I'd like to hear from them. So if they'd
Okay.
be willing to come to a meeting, I'd like to see a presentation.
Sure.
Is that something that we'd like at Learning Committee?
Sure.
Instead of the full board.
As
is that what you're
opposed to
saying?
the full board?
Yeah.
So a little
Good
bit
idea.
later, we'll be talking about the schedule for the rest of the summer with meetings, and we thought that we might, during the summer, have a couple of learning committee meetings and finance facility committee instead of
Okay.
full board meetings.
Right. Jill?
I'm sure this will be covered, but my general question is, what is 4 to 5 lessons? How does that compare to what we do today?
It's very comparable. It's dispersed within a couple of different courses right now. What we would look at is shifting it away from more of the reading, writing, math, science, social studies classes, and it would be delivered during physical education classes. And it looks as if there's additional minutes built into that PE piece. So we would try to infuse this into that physical education curriculum, where it naturally fits, where we typically see some more of those health-related type conversations as well.
Yeah, so if you remember, as we transitioned some of the programming at Parkview, some of this was done in the family and consumer education courses, and we're going from a 7th and 8th grade required FACE class to just the 7th grade course, the Life and Careers. But we added minutes in Phi-Ed, and so we have shifted some of the wellness kind of activities out of the FACE class into Phi-Ed because they had additional minutes going from this year to next year.
Okay. All right, anyone else? All right. Yes, that's what we'll do. Learning committee.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Policy 2110, Statement of Philosophy, and 2131, Educational Outcome Goals.
So if you remember, we spoke briefly about these two policies some time ago, a few months ago at a board meeting. These are the philosophy of education policies that would lay out what our priorities are as a district in terms of instruction. And if you looked at pages 26, 27, and 28, our old versions of those policies, you would have seen that there's a number of items that are outdated. A focus specifically named on highway safety, a focus specifically named around the health, nutritional content of dairy products. Just some things that are, I would say, a little bit misplaced in a overall general philosophy of instruction. So I took many of the things that were outlined in 2110 and 2131 and streamlined that into a draft of a new policy on page 29 of your packet. This would combine those two policies into one new 2110 that we would have moving forward.
Okay.
So, not necessarily looking for approval tonight, just bringing it to the board.
Okay. Any questions? No, you already asked it? Okay, good.
We have a second reading.
He has to bring it to present it before. Yeah, I read it too. No, we can't, it's not an action item, so
Oh, that's right.
you'll have
It's
to
not.
approve it at the next meeting. You can waive the first reading and then just approve it at the next meeting. You got that?
Yep.
Okay.
And then I did just, I included on page 30 just a draft document of, how do we take these philosophy statements and actually put them into action. And so this is kind of a draft of some of the things we've been talking about in terms of district priorities and having kind of a guiding vision document that would take the jargon, if you will, that's in a policy and say, okay, what does this actually mean? So again, just kind of sharing it for your information at this time.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, we're gonna move on. Next up is Finance and Facilities Committees. We have the MHS project update.
I can speak to that. So in your folder, we have a memo, brief memo from Kurt, and also our latest construction update. But now that the students and most of the staff are gone from the high school for next several weeks, the construction will pick up and you will start to see some progress, especially with the gym and the Performing Arts Center. If you noticed, big cranes out in front of the building, the fly, the taller part of the Performing Arts Center, they've started to put those precast panels up.
So it looks
And
like we have a castle now.
Yeah, it looks
Tallest building in Muir.
probably. And you'll see that with Performing Arts Center and also the gym. So you'll see, next several weeks, you'll see a lot of progress with that. Tennis courts are coming along nicely. They should be able to get up the nets in the next, this week sometime. And so they'll be able to be used by the community. They,
By the next
And
Monday,
then
it's tennis camp.
starts
Yeah.
next week, yeah.
next Monday?
Next Monday, yeah.
Yep.
So
They'll be ready.
get your button moving.
The lights will not be done quite
'Cause our
yet.
kids are going.
want
So the lights are gonna take a little bit longer, but the courts will be usable. Parking lots, just so you know, the east lot, sounds like we have a little storm here, so.
Yeah, the radar's looking bad.
Yeah, it's ugly out.
So
Just wanna, what windows were open.
if there- there's a tornado, so we go over to Clarendon, they have a basement.
Where's the tunnel?
You
with
first.
sprint
The last
right
time
over
there was a
here.
tornado, I just drove home.
NEM, yeah.
It's going the other way. I'll be
We
fine.
do have a plan, just so you know.
It was not. I was just
Yeah.
driving right
Yeah,
at it.
that's
The
smart.
parking lots, just so you know, the east lot,
Yeah.
the east lot will be blocked off, probably at the end of this week.
Yeah, I was wondering, I thought it
So
was
the high
going to
school
be.
will not
Okay.
easily be accessible. Really, the only way you'll be able to get in, because the front entrance by the library will be closed off also very soon. So the only way you get into the high school is you park in the west lot, and then you follow a path along where the old tennis courts were, traveling south, and then east to the athletic entrance between the two gyms. So that's the way
Cool.
we'll get into the high school for most of the summer, starting real soon. And then later this summer, we'd like to give the school board a tour of the progress, and maybe we'll hold a meeting there, or maybe we'll just have a tour. But C.G. Schmidt's anxious to show you what's been happening over there, but they thought that August would be best.
Okay, good. All right. Any
If
other
you
questions?
want, however, please know, if you ever want to go over there, I'm happy to take you over there.
You have to be there.
Somebody needs to be with you.
Somebody's got a bone in your heart. Okay.
You know, he's always afraid to
You're the responsible person there.
All right, next, any other questions? All right, life insurance.
I have one quick one.
Sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
Does somebody remember how many seats are in the auditorium?
850.
And how
Oh,
many,
currently, or
with the new one? The new one.
850.
Okay, and how many at the gym? I mean, if we would, you know.
2,000.
Thank you. I couldn't remember, somebody asked me and I couldn't answer.
Actually, a little more than 2,000, but 2,000 is a nice safe number.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next up is life insurance and long-term disability proposal.
Okay, so, I provided a memo for everybody here in the packet. I just, put this out today, so, after taking our census out to market and seeing who would
Page
bid on that.
31.
So the initial memo was on page 31. I gave you a new memo that's in your folder that I prepared today. I said I'd come here with a recommendation for you. So we did that, and National Insurance Services has found a competitive offer from, the standard, for Madison National Life. Okay? I put some details on there. Ultimately, they are able to match our current offer, our current plan design. So we have either one, based on employee classification, people receive one time or two times their, salary in the form of life insurance, et cetera. So all those plan designs are able to be met, okay? The standard was set to increase our long-term disability rates by almost 23%. There's just been a lot of experiences within the school districts that they insure for long-term disability. There's been a lot of mental health occurrences, and I think that's just an emerging trend right now, amongst school district personnel here, as would be discussed by anybody who sells LTD. So, at the end of the day, what I'm recommending is that we move towards working with Madison National Life for our active employee population, for the life insurance benefits that we provide to our employees and the long-term disability that we provide to our employees. We'd be able to provide the exact same coverage for $23,000 less. Okay. Now, we do have some retirees who we don't buy their life insurance, but they have access to it. Pre-Act 10 people, teachers who retired before July 1st, 2012, were given the right to remain in our life insurance plan, but it was on their own dime, so they are direct billed. Okay, so I shared some information there on the memo. We have about 60 individuals who are former teachers who are retired who buy their own life insurance through this. Okay, this move wouldn't necessarily benefit them. I'm sorry. Should have had this out the whole time. So this move does benefit the district and our active employees. It saves us money. And it was a matter of time before, as we don't work with M3 as our employee benefits consultant, the standard would increase our rates dramatically for the 2018-19 school year. So I recommend that we make the change right now to go to Madison National Life.
Okay.
So are there any questions from anybody here about that?
Jerry?
When I was reading through what the current policy is now, there's a 2-year on mental health
Correct.
and much longer on other health
Yeah.
problems.
Yep.
Is this, and then you mentioned the mental health in your,
Yep.
just a minute ago. So is this currently the norm?
Yeah,
That we treat mental health different than a kidney disease?
correct.
Is this something that other people are starting to look at as just because whichever part of your body isn't working to categorize it, that they're changing it? Is that thought process changing? Because like you said, it's increasing in this field and in others. I just wanted, because I didn't know that, and I read that and
Sure.
went, well, okay, so you have something wrong with your leg, but you have something wrong with your mind, and that makes a difference.
So that certainly could be changed. So that's a plan design change that could take place. We could have that adjusted and priced out. But we're going to see a very significant, a steep increase is my guess, as if we were going to say indefinite mental health is covered. So if you have mental health issues for 20 or 30 years, that's going to be quite expensive. So capping it at 2 years is the industry norm, you could say.
It is,
Yeah.
that is what people are
Yep.
doing. So
It's
this-
not,
this-
it's not unusual. We're not unique in that regard.
What about capping it at a dollar amount versus a time?
I could
I
look,
mean,
in-
I
I could
mean,
look
I'm
into
just
that.
asking you because obviously we all come different places in our life, and
Sure.
I come from that one. So,
Sure.
it was surprising to me. So that's one question. And then with the cost increase for those 60 individuals who would have to have an increase, so in theory, these 60 individuals are on a fixed income, and we are increasing their insurance benefits by 300%. I mean, $300 per year.
Correct.
So, I don't know what anybody else, because I know we're not going those long-term extensions on how long benefits, we don't pay benefits forever anymore. So I understand that, but is it something
So
that
here
we
the-
should,
here this
we
is-
should consider or think about or even converse about, partially picking up some of that because of what that does to them? I'm just throwing it out there.
I mean, yeah, most certainly. I mean, that's, I guess, the decision for the board to make here. Ultimately, life insurance is something that you use that when you have significant debts in your life. So if you, like me personally, so I'm 37 years old or 36, one of the two. I forget sometimes.
You kind of look 50.
That's the hair.
Get those mental health benefits for forgetting already.
I'm so bald you can see what I'm thinking. Some people tell me, okay? If you have significant debts, you know, a mortgage, whatever that is, you want to have life insurance for that. So if I were to die in any way, shape, or form, that those things would be handled. As you get older in life, that life insurance becomes much more pricey because it's inevitable. You know, we're all going to go at some point in time. So this, I guess it's the choice of the individual if they want to continue to buy life insurance as they get older and older, because the current policy with the standard is a flat composite rate for all folks, which is nice. It benefits our retirees who are on this plan. Going with Madison National Life, this was the one drawback, that this would be something that would be age dependent. Life insurance typically is age dependent. So if you were to shop the market right now, if you're 70, 80 years old, you're going to pay significantly higher rates, and that's
Is it term or whole?
term.
Just to follow up on what you're talking about with most life insurance, you know, you have it to support your children or whatever, and have that there in case something happens to you while they're still young. And like in my case, we have a little less life insurance than we once did because now my kids are grown, they're on their own. And so that's what Tom was talking about, is that the need for life insurance
Goes down. I
tends
mean,
to diminish the older you get because of those people that you leave
But
leaving the
there's
money
still
for.
60 people. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what
No,
their
I
fees are.
understand your point.
Yeah, yeah.
I do understand your
Okay.
point.
And I do too, Jerry. I mean, I totally get that. So I guess, and what I'm saying here is that this move would benefit our active current employee population that work for us right now.
Well, I'm not against changing companies at all. That is totally, don't hear me saying that. I just didn't know if, as a board, as a district, we've always been very, I felt more so than many other districts, respectful of what we had in the people that had served us, okay? So we went through it, and so I didn't know if this was another area that we needed to consider that. So I don't know. I mean, we're saving $2,300, so you, if that's going up, you pay part of it, and I'm not even saying you should. I don't know why they're keeping it. I don't know why there's 60 people. I don't know how old are they? Are they 55? Are they 75? I don't know any of that. I'm just asking a question about it.
No, it's
Probably because they got a group rate with everybody at the time, and it was cheap alternative to do it, so that's probably why they kept it.
Andy?
Correct.
You know, based on Tom's recommendations, I think it all makes sense, but we're talking $25 a month increase for those 60 people for this healthcare. So in the overall scheme of things, for people that are staring down healthcare insurance and insurance costs skyrocketing, I don't think $25 a month is that much.
I guess looking at it, $25 a month instead of $300 a year is.
Correct.
Same math,
Yeah,
so.
Right.
But I have no problem with going with Tom's recommendation, and I don't think the $25 a month on the 60 people is that much of an increase to take on.
Okay. All right, anybody else have any questions for Tom? You'll bring this back to the next meeting?
Yeah, this will come back on June 26th for final approval then. If you have any
Alright.
questions between now and then, let me know.
Next up, teachers on call contract.
So I provided a new updated contract as delivered by Teachers on Call. Our contract goes for 2 school years at a time, so we are finishing up the second of 2 years. The contract that you have there is on page 32, or starts on page 32 rather. It's all the same terms essentially. The one thing that is changing is we were one of the last districts to pay a 26% surcharge on their fees, and now it's 27, so we'll be the same as everybody else. Within that 27% is not only the rate of pay that we give to that teacher for doing a day's work, also their FICA taxes, their Social Security. We use them more and more ultimately, and we'll talk about this when I do the year-end budget. If we have a 1-year replacement teacher, that we would have to give an offer of health insurance, and that could be as little as $3,000 if they decline it and take the alternative benefit, or it's as much as $17,000, $18,000 if they take it and go on the family plan. Using Teachers on Call was costed advantageous to us because those folks do get an offer of health insurance through Teachers on Call. So in that 27%, all those things are covered there. So that's why the markup sits. So we're looking to just get approval at the next board meeting for this if you guys are comfortable with it.
Jeff?
Generally speaking, have we had a more difficult time, or has it been harder to get subs at certain times? Do you know? I just curious if that's been a problem.
So I would say that we're starting to see a slight decrease in availability of substitutes. And I would expect that trend would continue. As the economy has improved, the unemployment rate has gone down. There are not as many people that are looking to substitute teach for a variety of reasons. They may have found a position, a teaching position in another district or even in our district. And so there aren't as many substitutes, but is it, how did you frame your question again?
I'm just
Was
wondering.
it noticeable?
First of all,
Slightly
if
noticeable.
we're having a decrease of having a harder
Yes.
time getting subs.
Yeah.
And is it because there are fewer of them, or because maybe we're not as competitive from a pay standpoint as another district, and so if they have to pick,
I would say
one or
there
the
are
other?
fewer of them.
Okay.
And we have raised our substitute pay a couple of years ago, if you remember. You
Mhm.
approved that?
Yep.
And so I think that this coming school year, we'll have to watch that again carefully. We do have the rates for what other districts pay. And if we find that we are falling behind again, maybe other districts will increase their rate because there are fewer subs. We will have to follow suit.
Any other questions? Okay,
So we'll look for approval on that contract at the
next meeting.
okay?
All right, food service policy, uncollectible balance.
Okay, so more policy changes and from Neola because of changes with the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture and Food Service regulations. And there will be more coming because the federal government is talking about undoing some of the regulations that were put into place during President Obama's term. So you can expect that some of these things will change again. So the policy is one thing, and there's some legal changes there with the I'm sorry, not in the packet, but in your folder with an explanation. We don't have to do anything with that tonight. Tonight, what we're more concerned about is the memo that Tom put together with Pam Harris, our Director of Food Service, as far as our guidelines. What should we be doing when students have unpaid lunch balances? So that's what the policy is going to deal with, but more importantly, we want your input on what our guidelines should be. So if a third grade student has $10 negative balance, should we continue to allow them to eat? That kind of thing. We have to have guidelines for us to follow.
You guys first.
And so that's what Pam and Tom put together here. And of course, we're going to let them eat, but I'm just using that as an example.
All right, Jill?
Can you define how you discreetly offer an alternative lunch?
Yes.
I'll leave that to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean,
So-
that was the number one glaring question as I summarized this.
Okay, so if you take a look at the bottom of page 37, there's 9 numbers there, 1 through 9. That's how that would go about there. So the central kitchen would generate a list of students with their delinquent tabs and the negative amounts greater than $10, and that would be communicated to school office personnel, our front office people. The school office personnel would talk with the teacher about the student's delinquent debts, and the teacher would notify the school office personnel whether or not the student brought a lunch from home. School office personnel would send that information to the kitchen, and the kitchen would then provide an alternative lunch to any student who does not have a lunch in hand. So there's a lot of communication that takes place before a student even gets to 0. So there's reminders that go off at $7 if you're at the middle school, high school. There's more reminders that go once you're at 0. There's constant and reoccurring and more frequent automated messages. And once that $10 mark comes about, there's personal phone calls that are made. So there's a lot of, and again, we're not talking about students who are on free and reduced lunches.
Right.
We're talking about students who are not
So
those.
this is the process now. We follow
This is what we're proposing. So we work to get a brown paper bag lunch into a student's hand with nobody notices.
Before they walk into the lunchroom.
Before they walk into the lunchroom. We don't want them to have lunch in hand, and we put our food service worker on the spot. And now they gotta make a moral decision. Of course, they wanna give the kid lunch, but, we have to have this policy on the books. This is a federal mandate. Nobody really wants to be doing things like this, but here we are. We receive federal subsidies, so if we wanna keep them, we gotta do something like this.
Okay, so the lunch would be given to the teacher to give to the student before they even get into
Yep.
the lunchroom, and so nobody really knows
This was
what's going on.
designed with that completely at the forefront of
Okay.
how we need to go about this. We're not trying to call anybody out. We just,
Can I, on
Sure.
this subject, the Infinite Campus, you can tell it to notify you when they're under $10, but it doesn't.
okay,
It doesn't work
Okay.
for some reason, so that's an IT thing, but
I can tell you, speaking from experience.
I know, I get the phone- you can get the
Their
phone call or
children's
something,
lunch
but-
accounts.
If I have to
Yeah.
hear
There are a
about
lot of
my
phone
negative
calls.
balance all
yeah,
summer,
there's
I'm
phone
gonna
call,
shoot
you
'em.
know, sometimes there's phone calls or there's an email, but, I mean, I have it set up to notify me under 20,
We can look into that.
but
That
it
should
doesn't
work.
notify me at all,
Yeah,
so,
I don't know about that, but we'll look into
yeah,
that.
I don't know why it's not
I could
doing
use
it.
another reminder, so that'd be good.
All right,
And another.
oh, I'm sorry,
I know.
first,
Oh,
first
I'm
Andy.
sorry, I'm sorry.
How much waste do we have at the end of the day in kitchens, central kitchens, with stuff that we have to discard of at the end of the day?
I would say very little, as far as the central kitchen, and the work with the different schools, they really have that down to a science, and I would, you know, we could ask Pam that question, but they really, really work diligently to make sure there's not a lot of waste. I remember when I was in high school, there would be
There was always food
extra
left over.
food at the end. That doesn't happen much anymore.
You know, I would never want to see a kid not eat. And I think these interventions that were taking place are critical. And, you know, if the phone calls have to be made and stuff, that's just part of doing business. You know, it has to be done, but no kid should ever not eat.
Right.
Even the
Well,
kid
they would
wearing a
get a
Rolex.
lunch.
And this is the total district, these, in this little chart here, correct?
correct.
And the comment here is very little of this takes place at the high school, so it's more elementary school and middle school, I would presume.
Correct, yep.
Cherry?
So,
Oh,
I'm sorry,
Cherry,
we're
sorry.
making every effort to get the free and reduced application into everybody's hands. So if they really do need the help, we'll do it. You know, that's not the issue. We're trying our best to completely prevent this on the front end.
And did I read somewhere that you don't budget for this? You do or you do not budget for this? Is there a reserve for something like this?
No,
Are you allowed to budget, are we allowed to budget? for
no,
reserves?
that's what the practice of taking this amount and just writing it off as the cost of business isn't allowed. We used to do it like that, or even we.
Well,
we
what do
ought-
you do if you don't get the money? We're writing it off anyway, aren't we?
We have to have a policy that talks about how we prevent that. Yeah, if
Okay.
we
We
would
don't.
write it off if we can't get the money. We don't have the practice of using a collection agency here. Other school districts like Waukesha, they do that. We don't do that here. We try to take care of it all internally. But
Do you anticipate this $5,000 to be tallied up, like within the next, before the school year ends? It's gonna be collected?
in theory, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Cherry?
In answer to what I think you're saying is, this is how much you were short this year, right?
At the time of this memo,
So.
yep.
So that was May 18th, so some of it you've collected, but some of it's just on there so that this isn't what I was gonna ask, but I thought you have this account, and so next year when they start up in the fall, they'll still have a negative balance, right? As far.
For
you
returning
don't-
students,
you
yeah.
don't- for- Right?
Yep.
I mean, so it's just at seniors that you would never get it, and then you could add that to their
But
fees.
seniors, they have to pay it before they get their diploma.
Before they graduate, yeah.
Right.
Okay, but my question was, apparently it's not as convenient as we think it is to put money where it needs to go. So I don't know if there's ways, can they bring money in to the teacher and hand it to them?
Yeah. I
They can pay
fill mine up
cash.
with a credit card
Well,
on a whim.
Is
I
it
know.
an is there an auto renewal option?
I don't
No.
think, no, we don't have an auto renewal. You have to go in
Cause like you
and
said,
do it.
Sean, we've got the phone calls too. So I mean, this isn't necessarily all people it's just people who are busy and don't put food in
Right.
their
Well,
Right.
listen,
places.
my wife even has had a negative balance.
Well, I read Staff has
And-
$335.
Yeah.
Jeff, did your wife have a
And-
discreet
but
brown
she-
bag?
Yeah. But they, you know, the kids do they can bring cash, and she just forwards it on to the to the office where
Yes.
they take care of it.
And they can pay cash at the high school. Kids can just pull out money.
Well, that's probably why it's not as high, because you can't get a la carte, so they can't, yeah.
Okay, Erica?
So we have to do something.
Yes.
The questions we need to answer are, at what dollar value do we take action, and what is that action? That's what we're trying to create as an administrative guideline.
Erica?
I like your rough draft, the start of this policy. I think it looks fine. I've seen this done in elementary schools. I think it's way easier to do it discreetly in an elementary school than maybe the middle school would be. So I think it looks good. I think $10 is probably a fair place to start.
We're just really looking for a starting point.
Yeah.
So we can look to tweak this and change this as we learn from it, so.
Yeah, I think -10 is a
I,
good.
I agree 10 is good, and it better be a brown bag type, because there have been other districts called out for different colored bags and stuff.
No, we'll do it smart.
It better,
You bet.
yeah.
You bet.
And I think maybe sending a slip home with the student, can we do that? Just
So
to-
we keep the student out of it. We work directly with the parents at that
And
point, so
we s-
that's really just work directly with the parents, because that's where it needs to
Email
go.
them or mail something to them?
We make personal phone calls. We do it.
I know I owe $2.33, but you won't get it until next year. So starts, so just so you know.
I'm gonna make sure, you'll be the test pilot to see if they can.
And if I have to hear those announcements all summer, you're in trouble.
That's how we get the money.
Yeah.
Moving on.
So we'll formalize this and bring it back to you on June 26th, okay?
Okay. All right, next up is employee compensation.
So we'll take that to closed session, yeah.
Then 2016-17 and 2017-18 budget updates presentation.
Okay. Here we go.
Gotta be quick, right?
Super quick. Okay. So I spent some time here educating the board here for getting to this point in the school year right now. So I'm going to walk us through where we're at right now. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the 17-18 budget. We are in a good place. We're much further along than we were. I'll give you guys a more in-depth update here at the June 26th meeting. I think we'll plan on having a finance and facility meeting in July to go over some final details with 17-18 budget. But throughout July, then I'll make sure that everybody has that information as we move along here. A lot of that 17-18 stuff is in flux with the state of the budget with state government, so it's kind of hard to speak to some of that stuff. But we are in a good spot. I don't foresee any issues. We're not talking cuts or anything of that nature. So we look like we're in a good spot. Okay, so for 17-18, here we go. So really what we're trying to talk about here is Fund 10. Okay, all the other funds are pretty good. And to just back up for a quick second, at the last meeting, the student reps had asked for an explanation of all of our funds. So I provided one. It's on page 63. But really we're just focusing on Fund 10. This is the $47 million fund that we're looking at here the most here. So as we take a look at this, what we really want to do is take a look at what are our anticipated revenues for the school year. We have a good feel for that. What are our anticipated expenditures? And then ultimately that'll give us our anticipated fund balance. So the assumption here, and you tell me if I'm wrong, board, but the assumption is we do not want to add to fund balance. We are at the high end of our 15 to 25% range, so we're good there. Really what we want to do is take action to make decisions with any anticipated fund balance that we have with the goal of using our short-term savings to impact long-term fiscal health. Okay? So on the next screenshot that I have here, the top blue row tells us that I have us down for $47.2 million of anticipated revenues. Okay? Our revenues are much more known. There are still the Art Schneiders of the world paying us $2.05. So student fees are still coming in, but for the most part, we know what our revenues are going to be for the school year. I'll walk us through each of these line items below here with our anticipated expenditures, but we have salary, benefits, our school budgets, utilities and buildings and grounds, our departmental budgets, our title budgets, liability, insurance, workers' compensation, property insurance. We have our transfer to Fund 27. And our open and roll out cost is a bigger cost too. When we add all that up, it's about $46.2 million. There is a lot of assumptions made by me and guesswork that goes into that, but that is my absolute best guess. So my anticipated fund balance at the end of the school year would be just north of $1 million. Again, this is things that we didn't know when we created this budget, but once we got our actuarial analysis back and our OPEB savings were realized, once we finally settled our health insurance, these became known. And as the dust settled here throughout last week, we finally had a better grasp on where we think we are going to end up. Okay, so I'll get into all this a little bit more here. All right, so let's start with salary and benefits. So overall, we came under budget with our salaries and our benefits. The savings were experienced again, sorry to be redundant here, but we had our OPEB contributions that were decreased, our health insurance contributions went down, and we came a little bit underneath our salaries for Fund 10. That had a domino effect on our WRS contributions and our Social Security taxes, because there's about a 14% addition. Anytime you save on salary, you're going to save on those two things as well. Going to our school budgets there, you have a list of all the school budgets. We set a dollar value for each of those buildings, and the principal or somebody in particular will oversee those budgets, and our school budgets stayed on course for 16-17. There's nothing major unforeseen with any of that. With our utilities and buildings and grounds, again, we were under budget this year. This was partially due to a mild winter. Heating costs weren't too extravagant or anything of that nature. The utilities, the electric, gas rates are low. Again, we could go back to $4 a gallon and watch our utilities go up, but at current time, we're doing good there. We have budget for $200,000 of projects between now and June 30. A lot of times we just have to see, can we fit this project in before June 30? Is the manpower available? Are the people we're working with available? And if not, then that's something we have to put to the next school year. But overall, we're doing well there. There's a list of our departmental budgets. Again, we have an individual that's in charge of certain budgets there. There's the full listing there. And overall, we did go over a little bit with all these in the aggregate. And we knew that we would. In this a meeting or two or even three ago, we repurposed some OPEB money to make technology purchases. And we talked about those and approved those, so we knew that was going to occur. I talked about teachers on call. Our substitute teachers, we use those more to alleviate ourselves from ACA requirements and having to offer health insurance. So we didn't foresee that at the time, but as we look back, we know that next year we'll budget more money for our substitute teachers. And then finally for student learning, we went over for textbooks and literacy adoptions, and Nick's not in here, but that was all Nick's fault, but we talked about those things, okay? Sorry, Nick. Okay, so our other expenditures, just a couple more here. So we were on budget for all of our insurances, property liability, workers' comp, student insurance. We were on budget for our open and roll out. We actually went down a little bit, so we got more students staying in the district, which is a great thing. I think one of the big kickers and wild card variables is how much money are we going to transfer from Fund 10 to Fund 27. So on page 63, if you get a chance to take a look at that there, you don't have to do it right now though, but special ed is about an $8.8 million budget. We get about $1.7 million from either state government or federal government. The rest of it is going to be a transfer from Fund 10. Now we have some carryover balances allowed from previous federal sources. We are trying to use those, but it becomes kind of complicated. If we are able to claim carryover amounts we've made available in previous years, we can decrease our contribution, our transfer amount from Fund 10 to Fund 27. That would lead to more fund balance. So what I'm showing you tonight could actually increase if we're able to take advantage of federal resources, and we're trying to do that as best we can. They might not always be there, so we'll go after them now. So in the numbers I showed, and I'm going to revisit those numbers again on the next page here, that $1,006,000, that would include, if you were to hear tonight at my recommendation and next meeting approve it on June 26th, is to make a transfer amount of $437,000 from Fund 10 to Fund 73. That would meet our maximum actuarial funding requirements, and once we drop that money into our OPEB trust fund, we are 100% fully funded, okay? We cannot transfer more than that amount and still get aid on that, okay? Now, in an ongoing manner, if you take a look at the bottom set of bullet points, we will still need to fund about $450,000 ongoing, and this is known as service cost. So some of our newer teachers, they are given $1,000 a year for a year of service that they can collect when they retire 20, 30, 40 years down the road. And they vest into that. It takes 15 years to fully vest into that. And as those teachers stick with us longer and become more and more vested. That is what that service cost is. It's people growing into their benefits. Okay? We can't pre-fund that. As much as I like to say, just take extra money, put it in there, and we never have to look at that or consider it again. We can't do it. So right now, that's my recommendation, is that we transfer that final amount to Fund 73. So going back on that, what could change this? What types of things would happen that would make this be different when our auditors come by and they do our books and they tell us where we are? So any shift in expected expenditures between now and June 30, I think I have them all accounted for, but you never know. Any year-end B&G projects or final utility bills that go up or unforeseen things happen there. Again, we don't anticipate that. Any increase in special ed funding, as I said earlier, would decrease our Fund 10 transfer amount and make that anticipated fund balance a little bit bigger. And finally, our auditors come in the month of August, and they have the ability to take a look at all of our books, and you know that, but they can shift money out. And for example, we set aside about $1,600 for all of our family dental plan participants, okay? So as a percentage of payroll, we set money aside, and we're self-funded with our dental. So as those dental bills come in, we pay those with this money we set aside. If we set aside $450,000 over the course of the year for all of our employees, but only $350,000 worth of dental work occurs, we're still holding $100,000 for expenses that we may or may not get. So some of our expenses could actually shrink down once our auditors come by and they analyze how much expenses, we know how much you set aside, in other words, but how much expenses did you really have? And, you know, that's stuff that we can't predict. We don't know. We have a great guess. We always have enough money to cover it, but we listen to them on that. Okay? So there's a few variables that might affect this. So here's my June recommendation for you tonight, that we transfer this amount from Fund 10 to Fund 73, $437.58, and we can approve that on June 26th. In July, what I'll do for you, for us on June 26th is I will talk about 3 ways that we can meaningfully use this one-time money. We can transfer money from Fund 10 to Fund 46, and this would pre-fund building expenses, a new district phone system. We've talked about that for a little while in here. Our phone systems are outdated. Phones don't work so well. A new system will allow us to have better communications in the event of an intruder or emergency notification systems. We can't even replace the phones that we have right now if they break. So any future work that might take place at the middle school, any renovations there, or in any of our buildings, that any money we take from Fund 10 to Fund 46 would prepay all those expenses. We could also take money from Fund 41, and again, Fund 41 and Fund 46 both do the same things. They help us improve our buildings. They just do it in different ways in an accounting manner. We could take any expenses we charge to Fund 41 today and say, put them back to Fund 10 and let's preserve Fund 41 for another day. We have the opportunity to do this, and this keeps us strong with our buildings. And then finally, we can leave some of this money in Fund 10 as fund balance, and we can designate that for startup money in the event that we go self-insured either in 2018-19 or the year after that. You're going to want to have 3 to 6 months of money available to pay any claims that come in during that time. So that could be anywhere from $1 to $1.5 million that ideally you'd want to have on hand. So we could increase our Fund 10 fund balance beyond 25%, but we would designate that as this money is used for this purpose, unless you all decide to do something differently. So I'll make these recommendations to you at June 26th, and then we can approve the final steps in July. What I'd like to do is make recommendation to you on June 26th, where I say something like, I recommend that we transfer up to $800,000 to Fund 46, and then in July I will give you that final confirmation once I know where the budget really comes out. Okay? So that's it. Any questions? 12 minutes and 5 seconds, Mary. I went as fast as I could for the sake of everybody.
I have one, but is it one of those or all of those, or?
Combination.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it'll be more than one. I might just use one, but I don't think so. I think we'll do a couple different versions of that. Right. Right. Correct. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay, unfinished business. Superintendent's report.
Okay, so our summer meeting schedule and the superintendent evaluation training that's connected. So I had sent you an email a while ago asking for some dates to do that evaluation training. And I have heard back from a number of you that July 24th would work. Looking to hear from the rest of you, does July 24 work for that evaluation training?
I think
What
I
day is-
implied that it would all depend on,
Jeff, you told me July 24 was good.
yeah, it could change depending on when we end up going to visit one of the kids.
Oh, okay.
That's the only.
It's in the afternoon, evening sometime.
So 6 to 10, roughly 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
We could do, yeah, as long as it's in the evening, I can do it.
Well, excuse me.
Yeah, we'll have food.
That's our regular board.
Anybody else?
That's a regular board
It's
meeting.
regular board meeting night, yeah.
So everybody else is good?
You got mine if I had to be a little late.
Yep, I have that.
Okay.
I'm all good.
Okay, then, as we mentioned earlier, are we okay with having committee meetings for July and August instead of 2 full board meetings? So Tom is looking to have a finance and facilities committee meeting when? In July, August, or both?
July.
In July, and that would be on, I have it here somewhere, I'm sorry, July 10. Correct?
Okay. So that would be finance and facilities.
And then Nick, did you want to have a learning committee meeting in July, or are you looking at August, or both?
Excuse me. I think I'm looking at both because we have a large amount of new curriculum from Parkview that will be coming. And some of it will be done for July and some of it will be done for August. So rather than bombarding the group with lots and lots and lots of stuff at one meeting, I think it'd be better to split it up.
Okay, so we don't have anyone that's on 2 committees, do we?
Just me.
Okay, but you're not on
But I'm
finance
on-
and facility
I'm
and
on
learning?
No, I'm not
Right.
on learning.
So we could have learning committee also on Monday, July 10, if that works for everybody. Okay, that sounds good.
Any
I'm
objections?
not on any of the committees, so you guys.
Yeah, you guys are on
offed me
personnel,
off.
so you're,
Personnel, so.
You two are
Yeah,
done.
you guys just erased
Okay.
my.
okay, that's good then. So
Relevance.
July 10, we'll have a finance and facilities committee meeting and also a learning committee meeting. And then Nick's asking for a Monday in August for learning committee. Is Monday, August 14? Does Monday, August 14 work?
Yeah, I would have planned to be here at the board meeting anyway.
So Monday, August 14 would be the learning committee meeting.
Which is actually you three, right?
All at 7 o'clock, so.
Correct, 7 o'clock.
Who's on the learning committee again? Remind me.
Andy,
Okay.
Right here. Boom, boom, boom.
Make sure you look at all those textbooks.
Yeah.
Planning on it.
And I'll be there.
I have feelings.
and we'll be
Okay.
here.
Hey, yeah.
And those are standard
Are you good with
7
that?
o'clock meetings.
And Tom, you're good with that?
7 o'clock meetings.
Okay, good.
When
Then we're
we
set.
had these committee meetings.
Sean
Is July
said-
Correct.
24th the
Sean
only
said
one that's at
7.
6, or
That's
do
the
you-
only one that's at 6.
Okay.
July 24 is the only one that we would have to start at 6 for that
Everything
superintendent
else is at
evaluation
7.
training, but I'll talk to them again to make sure that we'd have to start that early.
I'll be hungry then.
And we'll have food.
Quick question.
Yes.
Will we need to go to those or
No.
no?
No.
Okay.
You're
Nope.
free.
Yeah, be happy. Mary.
You could.
You don't have anything but pizza, Jerry.
So we have no summer.
We'll have one in July.
So, well, July 24 will probably be the superintendent training, so I don't know that they have to come to that one. August 28, you guys would come to?
So is that next one?
Right, so you have July off.
Okay.
Wow, they're already happy to miss.
Look at that.
But we can still do
Come
that
on.
They get it.
budget stuff in,
Senioritis
yes,
is set
yep,
in.
I was
absolutely.
gonna say, can we, yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
Is it June 28th or June 26th?
June 26th.
Well, okay,
That's
June,
the Monday.
All right, you're talking about something else. We were talking about July.
Yes. I'm
Okay.
going back to the
So
June
now we're
meeting.
going to June. We do have a meeting on Monday, June 26th.
Okay, 26.
That you guys will
Yes,
be there.
you guys too.
Yes.
Sean and I will not be there.
Okay,
Free-for-all, anarchy.
Y'all have fun with that.
have at it.
I won't be thinking about you at all.
And then in
All right.
August, there'd be a regular board meeting at the end of the month?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Of
So
August.
we'll have a regular board meeting on August 28th.
We're way in
So
August
I'm
already?
gonna,
He's
I'll
flipping
send
back
this
to
to you
August.
guys tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll give
Yep.
you all the dates tomorrow. I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page before.
So on the 26th, with the July 24th one, we can still do, I'm just saying.
We can still do some
Business?
business, yes.
At 5:30, before we start, or what?
Let me get a better idea from
Okay.
the CISA
Yeah,
6
we
on the length of that superintendent evaluation training.
Yes, because you're on finance.
Okay. I'll get that to you guys tomorrow.
Okay.
Then just a quick update from the YMCA. So as you know, we have a strong partnership with the YMCA with a variety of different programs. We do allow them to we partner with them for their YMCA Family Mud Run, which was held a couple of Saturdays ago, and we hold that at Muguanago High School. They had 669 runners register this year for the mud run, and they raised over $20,000 for their annual campaign. So that's for families that aren't able to afford YMCA services such as swimming lessons, things like that. So it's a nice partnership that we have with them. All right, then before we get to the correspondence, let's talk about the state budget update. So we have a number of documents in your packet regarding the state budget, and I did meet with Representative Horlacher on Friday morning, so I want to make sure we're all on the same page. As you know, we've talked about Governor Walker's proposal, which essentially is what the state senate is also proposing, and that would be a $200 per student increase for 17-18 and a $204 increase for 18-19. That's for every student in every public school district in the state. The concern that we've had with that is that it will not address the inequity in funding between us and other districts such as New Berlin, where they have quite a bit more money that they're able to raise because their revenue cap is so much higher than ours. We've talked to all of our state senators and our reps about that issue, about the harmful revenue cap, and it sounds like the Assembly has heard our pleas, and so the State Assembly is actually proposing revenue cap relief with their budget proposal. And they are proposing that that ceiling be lifted to $9,800.
It's even more than we wanted.
So that $9,800 per student. And right now, Tom, it's at $9,100 is the minimum, so $9,800 would be the minimum. Now, that is great as far as revenue. So we would be able to increase our revenue by, you have a ballpark on that? 2.7 million per year. However, there's a caveat with this. We have to understand how we get that money. So that's property taxes. So please know that in order to get that additional revenue, we would have to increase property taxes. I don't think it's realistic for us to turn around and say we're going to increase property taxes to come up with $2.7 million in 1 year. So we're assuming that the Assembly would give school boards the option of increasing the revenue limit to $9,800, and it could be done over a period of years. I don't know that to be certain.
And we don't know that it's going to go the route of the Assembly.
It could
So
go
we
which way.
don't
Right.
know a lot,
Yeah.
and Cody said, if anything, right now, if he had to guess, that both would be possible more than one or the other.
Hmm.
However, I don't think that they're even at least at last Friday, they weren't even talking.
No, they don't like it.
So, I don't know where this is going. My guess would be if one passed, it would be the governor's proposal. But we'll wait and see.
Something's
Now,
better than nothing.
you can see that the WASB and a number of other organizations are telling school boards that we should encourage the state legislature to do both. So I have those documents. I don't know if you're interested, before I start lobbying for one or the other or both, I want to make sure that I get your guidance on that.
So the voters okayed a referendum, which is awesome, but then if we get more money from the government, we have to raise taxes. Is that what you're saying, basically?
Well, the Senate proposal is 200 for the first
Yeah.
year, 204, that's state
That's
aid.
state aid.
Okay.
It's not
That's what
property
comes-
tax.
So that's not property tax.
The other item is property
Got it.
tax.
Okay.
The assembly version is property tax,
Got
and
it.
that is what we've been talking about for the last couple of years, how the revenue caps that have been in since 1993 are not allowing us to be competitive with other districts such as New Berlin, who has $9 million more of revenue each year, even though they have fewer students.
And the legislative process to raise the property tax is driven by exactly who?
So I'm not quite
What
sure
do you
what.
mean?
Well, I mean, if we want to, how do you get to this from 91 to 9,800? I mean, that, you said that's raising property tax.
Right,
That's
that,
us right
that would be
here.
the
Yeah.
school
Wave
board.
a
Truly is our control.
That is
Yes,
ours.
that would be the
Okay, 'cause I
nine,
didn't- I
the
wasn't
9
clear
people
on
here
that.
at the
That's what
table,
I thought I heard you
right.
say, but, okay.
And
So
would
when you
that
set the levy.
it would necessarily give us the opportunity to do that if we chose to, but it wouldn't mandate that we would
Right.
have to do that, correct?
You can always
know
up
that's-
levy if you want.
Okay.
They'll give you the green light to collect up to 9,800 per student, so if that worked out to $50 million, you could say we only need 48 or whatever you guys chose. You have the tax levy authority.
Is there a number that the taxes would go up for each $1,000 or $100,000? So if we're looking to go up that much, what would be the maximum, I mean, just for conversation, what would be the
Yeah.
maximum tax levy to get from where we are to that?
I don't have that.
Is there a
We
way to
can-
figure, is there a way to figure that?
Yeah.
I can give a best guess on that.
Okay, I mean, just so that like we were talking insurance, are we talking thousands of dollars per homeowner? Are we talking $100? So that's what I'm, just to get some kind of,
My guess is a couple hundred right now.
Right, Andy?
I struggle with just getting a referendum, and we were fortunate to get that, and then to ask for an increase on the tax base. I'm not sure I could be in favor of that.
Well, and that's why I was asking whether or not it was something, I mean, we would still have that, it would be up to our decision as to whether we.
But I
do
can't
that.
see getting a referendum that the tax, that the voters and the tax base increased it to, and then turn around and raise taxes. Not sure I could support that.
I agree with Andy. I would opt for the per pupil, but I would also tell those lawmakers that they could do a little more work and still have some formula and try to even it out in per pupil, aid for the districts that have, taken the hit for all these years. And by them trying to raise or let us raise taxes, again, they're trying their darndest to put all of the work on our shoulders, just like the referendums, and they're talking about trying to pull that and limit that. They want us to do the heavy lifting for them, and they get paid a lot, and they have a full-time job. They can do a little work, in my opinion, and come up with a fair solution. But
So you want me to say
I
that, or
would
do you
go
want me
for
to
the-
say that's from you? I just want to make sure.
I personally, yeah, they'll know who it's from.
Archnetter Editorial Division.
No, but that's what I'd like to see.
So again, I do want to stress that, you know, we have our list of needs, and when we go into executive session, we're going to be talking about our staff compensation. And we have been talking about that for the past year. You heard from the health assistants today, so we definitely have some needs. And so at the very least, I think what this group should want is the flexibility, the ability to be able to increase revenue. I think that's important. Right now, we can't. We're stuck where we're at, but we want the ability to be able to increase revenue. That's what we've been telling the state legislators when in our talks. Yes, we would prefer that they would do the heavy lifting, but in the end, I think the board wants that flexibility to be able to do that.
I get that argument, and I love that argument, but I don't think our board has the strength to try to get that additional. And again, it's all put on the shoulders of a lot of other people that live next door to people instead of,
I know it's
you know,
hard. I
hovering
know it's
over
difficult.
people. Yeah.
So one thing I think that we're missing probably for you to be able to make an informed decision would be at least a rough idea of what it would cost.
How much?
So let's try to get that for you. Would that help?
Do you feel very strongly that we need to send an additional letter telling them what we want? Because I think we've kind of been there, done that. Like, we've spoken, we've seen them.
Yes. And now that's my point, that now they're doing that. The assembly is, at least.
Right, but weren't you just asking if we should send another letter in one of those directions?
Yes, remember, if you read the WASB, you know you get all the emails from the WASB, and they were encouraging school board members to contact the Senate and the Assembly and say, do both. So that's what I'm asking, if you wanted me to initiate contact, or if you want to let it be, or if you want to wait to see what the property tax impact would be. I'm just looking for input. You do not have to do anything with this.
I get their approach of do both. I mean, that it does make sense, and then the board can, you know, if they can't, you know, find it in themselves to raise it higher.
The only problem with persuading them to do both is we look like greedy little. And to the public, it's, oh, look at, here they come.
I'd say
And
we
now
just
they
let
want
'em
both.
sit.
And so it's getting people to understand that we don't want to go to 9,800, that we're gonna, you know,
It just
we have
gives
the
us
flexibility,
flexibility.
but they're not gonna see that. They're gonna see the 90, you know, the 5 o'clock news is gonna be the $9,800 and the 200. And that's what people, that's the word that people are gonna get. And yeah, I would love to have that flexibility, but just putting it out there and saying, this is what we want is the issue. With
And it's all hypothetical.
understanding,
I
yeah.
mean, for right now.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
And
not
then-
even.
We can debate this all night long, but.
No,
yes,
but we
but
are,
moving
we are,
on.
no, we are given a direction, Craig, and so that's what he's asking for.
I understand.
So,
So I hear right now we need more information.
We need more.
yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Again, it's an update.
All right.
Okay. Tom, you said you had correspondence? Go ahead, you go first.
Some of you have been contacted by a certain individual that lives over by Field Park, and I just want to make sure that I do my part here. I've had a visit from someone who doesn't like the bus that's on the corner of 83 and NN at the middle school. Doesn't think that that bus belongs there, and that's free advertising for the housemen. They should do that on their own accord. He asked that I tell you that he is on his high horse here and wants it moved, at least backed up in a way that he doesn't have to see that bus out of his backyard through the park. Would you like to move it, or go ahead? I'll do anything
Tom,
you
I
guys
met
say.
with that individual,
Okay.
and I asked him to plant a tree in front of his window, and he's okay.
He's okay
He's
with
good.
it?
He's
Okay.
good for now.
I said I got multiple letters from him over time, and I said I haven't heard from anybody else in the community who doesn't like it, and we need to partner with Dallasman in situations like this. But he asked I say something, so there it is. Thanks. Thanks for that.
I didn't know if he would be more acceptable if we put a sign there. I have noticed some other districts they're all in the same boat. They need bus drivers. And so some districts put a sign instead of a bus. I don't know if that would be a compromise, but I know the bus is gone now, so.
I think the bus is a big attention getter.
Right, I
Which is what he
understand.
doesn't
I
like,
agree.
but I
That's-
mean,
it's noticeable.
It's what
Hasn't
gets
the bus been there for like ever?
forever.
Like before it was Dallasman, was Hanks had, everybody, they have all of
Hanks would have it there often,
Yeah.
yeah. Huh?
The bus.
We're
All right, we're good.
We're good.
Okay. Then, as far as other correspondence in your packet, there is a letter from David Sternig, the Classic 8 Commissioner, congratulating our tennis team on the Classic 8 Sportsmanship Award. There are 2 letters from the Wisconsin RTI Center congratulating Clarendon and Parkview for their efforts with RTI. And then I did not include this, but I wanted to make sure I told you that Waukesha County did contact us, and within the next several weeks, they will go to committee and then to the full county board, the request to reduce the speed limit out in front of the high school from 40 to 35. So I'll send you more detailed information on that as I get it, but that is moving forward. Any questions on that? All right,
Legislation?
legislation. So, let's talk about the legislation. Senate Bill 169. I have some information in there that would allow people to conceal and carry on school grounds. So, I'm looking to get input on that, on how you want to proceed, leave it be, or what you are thinking about that proposal.
Did this legislation go through now, or does it
No,
stand?
it's been to, it's in committee.
It's in committee.
And
Okay.
I forgot which committee, I apologize, it's probably in the
all right.
packet here, I can
It's in
get that,
committee.
but it's in committee, right.
Okay.
So Dave Craig, one of our senators, lives in Big Bend, was a co-sponsor of that legislation.
Who gets to carry? Anybody who has a concealed carry permit?
It's considered constitutional carry, so anybody that is a law-abiding citizen of the United States and not a convicted felon or any other disqualifiers would allow them to carry a weapon on them.
Did this not state you have to have a CCW?
No, that would be gone. The CC,
That's what they're proposing, is removing.
It's
So part of the
requirement.
proposal is to eliminate the permit process. So I don't know a lot about the permit process to be able to conceal and carry, but that would be eliminated as part of this proposed legislation.
as I understand it, I spoke with Senator Nass's office in regards to this, because he's part of it as well. You know, they're still going to encourage people to take the training, and I think law-abiding citizens are cognizant of the fact that they probably need training, but it's sitting there, it's in committee, and I think it's going, June, July for a vote?
That I'm not sure. We can get more information on that. The other piece of this is that it would reduce the penalty for carrying a gun onto school grounds from a felony to a misdemeanor or a fine.
Actually, it would eliminate it, I believe.
Well, you can have your,
It was
carry it on the
reducing
ground,
it.
can't
No,
No, you
you
cannot.
can't.
So not now you can't, but under this thing.
Under this,
Right,
you would be
under
allowed
this you would-
to. Correct.
What circumstances would you be fined if you were?
I think that, I don't believe.
So the one key piece to this is that even though it would eliminate the law that says that schools are gun-free zones, school boards could still pass a resolution that would say that there's no guns allowed on McGuanago School District property. So that's the
So
difference.
basically, they're
But
just
then
kicking it
if
back to
people
us.
did carry on, and if people did carry, the fine wouldn't be a felony, it would be reduced to a misdemeanor or a fine.
You have to be 18,
Jeff.
I'm assuming.
Yes.
Correct.
Jeff?
But you can be 18 and a senior.
I
Well,
guess
That would violate.
it's
student
one of those
conduct.
things that I have concerns about. I mean, and I look at this from a personal level as two different ways, that my wife being a teacher, I
She
have
could
cons-
carry.
well, there's no way in the world she would carry. I would have concern about, for example, somebody coming in for a parent-teacher conference, somebody's, for whatever reason, gets a little wound up and pops their cork or whatever, and then they've got a gun in their pocket.
Jeff, they can do that anyways.
Yeah, that's.
I mean,
This is probably,
They can do it anyways.
this
I mean,
is probably
that-
one of
I think
those
that-
things we're not gonna agree on, and so.
Absolutely.
The other thing that would concern me is when I do the basketball games, and I'm sitting dead center, right on the floor of the court, and if somebody
Only when you
was able to
sing the
bring a
national
gun,
anthem, Jeff. Only
yeah,
when you
well,
sing.
that
Only
might
when
be,
you sing.
that we can take care of.
And that's me.
But, it's crossed my mind while I'm sitting there, in plain view, right in the middle of everything, that if somebody really wanted to, they could do that. And sure, they could do
They can
that
do it
now.
now. I don't
But I don't
understand
think we should make it any easier for them to do that. That's my feeling.
I think a school's an easy target. I mean, if I was somebody going at that, where do you go after? I'm gonna go where there's no guns, there's no
Yeah.
protection.
Well,
Nobody's gonna stop me anywhere.
Well, gosh, we're in the minority here, Jeff.
I like I said, we respectfully, we can disagree on this one. And,
So if you recall, more than a year ago, and I think it was Representative Horlacher, he was here speaking to the board and this is not the first time that this has been proposed. It's the first time it's gone to committee, but it was proposed, bill proposed last year. And so he brought it to our attention, and he had talked about how in some places, not here in Mugwanago, some people who had a permit to conceal and carry had brought their gun onto school property when they picked up or dropped off their son or daughter. And sometimes they forgot or things like that. And at that time, I had asked our principals how they felt about this, and unanimously they said no guns on school property. And I want you to know, and I understand we may have to respectfully disagree, I feel very strongly that guns and schools do not mix. There's nothing with this bill that will make our schools safer. And so I absolutely oppose this. I will, of course, do as you bid and tell me what to do, but my own personal beliefs are that guns and schools do not mix, and that there should not be guns on our school properties.
And my personal belief is completely different, Sean. But thank you.
But we're also not talking, when you say guns and schools don't mix, we're not talking about the students per se having firearms. We're talking about adults that do have a constitutional right. And as a federally licensed firearms dealer and trainer, my opinion is very different than some of these, where the proposal that was brought up last year, I actually thought was probably have been a better compromise, because that wasn't about inside school buildings, that was simply on property. So somebody like picking up their parent, driving on and off the property, or, picking up, they wouldn't be considered committing a crime. So as a board, if this goes through, that's still something that we can consider. We can still make the buildings, if we wanted, a gun-free zone. However, we don't want to, criminalize a parent concealed carry driving through our parking lot. We have that freedom, assuming this passes, correct? To then, as a board, go ahead and do what we
set policy.
see fit for our
So,
particular district.
right now, state and federal law states that schools are gun-free zones.
Okay.
So again, we talk about flexibility with budgeting. This simply allows for flexibility in our own policymaking.
I think it should still require the training. I think that was, even though it could be a little better training, but I think it was at least something. I mean, I think this is saying that you don't even need any training at all to carry. But I'm with Craig. I think a school is an easy target. If you know nobody's gonna have anything out there, why do you think people would go and do something like that? Because they're not gonna be stopped. By the time the cops get over here, we have one cop at the high school. That's about it.
So we've talked
at Hunter Safety. I've been involved in Hunter Safety a little bit, and my kid's been through it. I've been through it. There's no shootings in Hunter Safety. I mean, it's the people that don't have the permits and that don't. Anyways, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, even when the concealed carry came into Wisconsin, oh my God, we're gonna have these mass shootings and everything was gonna be
So my back to your issue about schools being easy targets, it's my belief that the state should spend some more money on making sure schools are safer with more school resource officers. We've had that discussion a couple years ago.
Those guys carry guns, don't they?
Yes. Yes.
That's interesting. Sorry, I'm just.
Well, they're trained differently, to be fair, Craig.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely.
Yes. I feel much better about Officer Steinbrenner and some of the other police officers being in our buildings.
I fall on the same with Erica. Criminalizing a parent because they went hunting over the weekend and left their gun in the car is not okay. I think it's fine in the parking lots, it's fine. I would like to say, don't bring it into the building.
And and
Don't bring it in.
the law that's on the books right now even prohibits off-duty law enforcement officers from carrying a weapon in a school zone. So, it's very restrictive, and to the point where, somebody, the old horseshoe, they're just pulling through to pick up their kid after sports or something. I mean, there's a mom, and it's somewhere here in Wisconsin, was on one of the shows, was charged with a felony because she had a gun on her person, and she was licensed to carry that weapon and trained, and so, I think we're all respectful of everybody's opinion here, and we'll agree to disagree, but, I think we could talk passionately about this all evening.
So, Right, if you're the majority of the board is for it. All right, moving on.
Then this, the other piece of legislation is an update on the transgender case, and this one's out of Kenosha, and the Seventh Circuit Court of U.S. Court of Appeals ruled in favor of this Kenosha student. Obviously, we don't have school right now, and so bottom line, as we've said repeatedly about this issue, is that we're waiting and hoping that the United States Supreme Court will take one of these cases and then make a decision so schools know how we're supposed to respond to these requests. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to tell our students and staff that they need to respect all students, and we'll take a case-by-case basis on any requests that we get from individuals' family.
I like the fact that this student has a diagnosis and has been and is, taking medication for the he's gotten help. I don't like the idea of someone showing up, I'm sorry, Klinger from Adam, showing up dressed in a skirt and going, I'm going in the girls' bathroom today. No way.
You're born a boy, use a boy's restroom. You're born a girl.
If you have a diagnosis, then maybe we can consider it, but if you don't have a diagnosis, you haven't been to see anybody, and you're just deciding one day, I'm sorry, but no. That's where I stand on that one. No, not unless the Supreme Court tells me I have to.
Right, I agree as well.
Asked Target on that one, but they decided to let people use their bathrooms.
Have we
Didn't
had
go
it?
well.
It didn't go very well.
Target
Nothing.
did?
Oh, yeah.
Their stock, their sales went.
Oh, yeah, when Target
They were,
stepped up and,
roasted.
they tanked big time.
Convention.
Did they change
Jill,
your
you seen art in your bathroom?
Oh, no, they took a serious hit in their stocks and their client base. I refuse to shop there
I think
after
they're
they did
adding
that.
third bathrooms in some of the stores is what they're compromising.
Yeah,
They have
that's
to
the
roll back,
family
but-
or whatever bathroom. Okay. That's just where I stand on it.
So that's just an update on that.
Just letting you know.
And then, board member questions.
Okay, Jeff?
I'm just wondering if it's possible to get a sign of some sort at the new entrance to this parking area that says entrance for Clarendon Avenue School. Because I do believe people are still going in the wrong entrance. And at some point, something's gonna happen there,
Sure,
but.
okay. Yeah, we can work on that.
we have a sign
Now's a good
says
time to work on it.
Entrance Clarendon Avenue School here, and that way,
It sneaks up on you.
It does.
And
Yeah.
then you're past
Yeah,
it.
no, I
Half the
understand.
time you get to pick and say, oh, I missed my turn.
So you do know that if you're traveling east, you do know you can come around and come in the,
Yeah, that's nice. That's
Yeah.
nice.
oh yeah.
off of Clarendon Avenue, you
Come
can't
here,
enter
you
there.
miss it.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, well, okay.
All right, Craig?
Any other board? Oh, I'm sorry.
Just gonna make a comment. Congratulations, Jerry, your daughter, Charlene. You're here tonight because she was hired as a teacher, correct, full-time?
That's why I'm here.
Congratulations, Jerry.
In McWanago?
Yep.
I didn't see her on my list. What's her last name?
Mokantine.
Oh my gosh! Yes!
There you go.
Alrighty. Anybody else?
I just wanna add something. I know you and I talked real briefly about the FIAD and the athletic thing we were gonna look back into.
Yes.
See if you found anything new about that, or.
Nick's working on that. I don't think he has it quite yet, but
No, so we can take that back to learning committee at one of the meetings this summer. We had previously discussed it at a learning committee a few years ago. Todd's asking about the ability to use a sport to count as FIAD credit. So we can put that on an agenda again this summer and
Give
talk
kids
about it again.
More options with their classes and stuff instead of trying to fit a gym class.
We got two kids taking summer gym this year.
Was that? I think my son had to take
They're both taking it.
gym at home or
Yeah.
it was
Yeah,
online
summer,
thing,
yeah.
Same with my
Online.
dog.
Which you could put all those activities from sports on anyway.
They're getting gym and health out of the way. All right, anybody else?
so Nick's working on that. Yep.
All right, I need a motion.
I'd
Oh,
like
citizens
to-
comments, hold on. Anybody? Okay. All right, I need a motion to move into executive
I'd like to
session.
make a motion, we move into executive session.
Second.
All right, Cherry, roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Todd? Oh, here you go. Erica?
Yes.
Mary Moore?
Yes?
Andy Mankey?
Yes.
Art Schneider?
Yes.
Craig Wirtz?
Present.
Jeff Lipple?
Yes.
Joe Warner? Present. Sherry Wintowski?
Okay, 5-minute break.
That's exciting, I didn't even.
Yeah, if you could, I'll take them back, just pass them down. Yeah, I'll go put one more. I was waiting to see when you. As soon as I saw it fully, that's awesome, that is so awesome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming.